In a recently agreed upon resolution of the Council of the European Union titled Security Through Encryption and Security Despite Encryption, the document states that moving forward, the European Union strives to establish an active discussion with the technology industry while associating research and academia to ensure the continued implementation and use of strong encryption technology. Competent authorities must be able to access data in a lawful and targeted manner, in full respect of the fundamental rights and the data protection regime, while upholding cybersecurity. What this means is that the European Union wants to be able to access the content of all encrypted data, while, at the same time, keeping encryption secure. In this video, I want to demonstrate why this is the same as trying to outlaw gravity. Fundamentally impossible. There are many issues with this resolution, like invasion of privacy, ease of criminals to just write their own secure messenger, and how this should be technically implemented. However, I will just focus on the security aspects. First, I want to make clear how important secure encryption is. If unauthorized parties got access to the contents of all communication, it would mean that they could read all messages of politicians and their families, allowing to blackmail them if they ever said anything in private that could be remotely considered inappropriate. They would get access to nudes, including those of underage persons. They could get access to confidential business communication. Messages of soldiers in war zones, which may contain sensitive information, could get into the hands of the opponent. Also, some forms of cryptography are used to not just encrypt, but verify communication, to make sure data has not been altered. Depending on the exact implementation of this resolution, parties could create forgeries of digital information that would be impossible to detect. This might allow bypassing virus scanners, or even forge digital signatures of documents. Some countries even vote digitally. As a result, digital information could no longer be trusted in any regard. Another aspect of encryption is secure communication between servers, or between a server and a client. These are widely used, not just on the internet, but also in infrastructure, such as industrial control systems for robots, power plants, water infrastructure, air traffic control systems, etc. Weakening this encryption in any way would allow an attacker to gain access to credentials and, ultimately, access to the underlying infrastructure itself. As such, we have to make sure that secure cryptography stays secure. You can picture encryption like this. You want to send a letter to someone else. To make sure no one but the recipient can read the letter, you put it into a secure box and lock it with a secure padlock. In this example, we can assume that both the box and the padlock are absolutely safe, unpickable, and unbreakable. As is immediately clear, everyone who has the key to the padlock can open it. Currently, in messenger software or secure digital communication, the only person who has the key is the recipient. As such, it is impossible for anyone intercepting the box to access its contents. It is important to note that not even the service provider, WhatsApp, Signal, or in our case, the post office, have access to the key at any point. This is the only way to make sure that no unauthorized third party gets access to the message. Of course, if the recipient fails to protect their key, the box could be opened. However, this requires access to wherever the key is stored and would only allow access to boxes for that recipient. However, as the resolution states, a third party is now supposed to get access to the contents of the box, that third party being law enforcement and intelligence agencies. So how could this be implemented? There are only two solutions to this. Either you can weaken the box or the padlock so you can break it easily. This would essentially mean the end of all secure communication. The other is to modify the padlock so that it accepts two keys, one that the recipient holds and a master key that is held by the post office. This master key might open only the boxes for one recipient or all boxes. Whenever the police wants to get access to the contents of a box, they just go to the post office, get the master key, unlock the box, and check its contents. It is important to note that digital messages, unlike actual boxes, can be easily copied by the service provider when in transit and stored forever. So all those messages would always be available to be decrypted, even long after they have been sent. The issue with this approach is that the security of communication now depends on the security of the master key. Since whoever has access to it has access to all messages, the actual issue is not how technically secure the box, the padlock, or the master key is. It is how to make sure only the right people have access. The safety of the master key is not just dependent on technology either, but also on laws and, most importantly, people. Even if we assume perfect technical security, which doesn't exist, any malicious actor that has access to the master key, like a corrupt official or a spy in the intelligence agencies, would allow all messages to be decrypted by unintended third parties. Even just a short lapse in judgment can be enough to let others gain access to the master key. This has already happened. Locks on luggage that pass through TSA have to be able to be opened by a special TSA key. Shortly after introduction, a key was visible in a picture of a Washington Post journalist who was writing a piece about luggage sorting at airports, allowing everyone to create replicas. Another important point is that as soon as the master key exists, there is nothing keeping every country on the planet from requesting access to it by passing laws, thus gaining access to all messages. This is especially troubling in regards to industrial espionage and the possibility to blackmail politicians. This is the ultimate issue of this proposal. In the end, service providers will implement the laws of every country they operate in, and every country will dictate their own access requirements or lack thereof. In other words, this is not a problem of technology, but one of politics. Of course, means exist to make the master key more secure, like having different keys for different recipients, or even changing the key on a regular basis. One could even require strong authentication for using the key. But no technical solution exists for the underlying issue, that third parties that should not have access could unilaterally pass laws that grant it to them. Another big issue is scope. The document does not specifically state what encrypted data should be accessible by the authorities. As such, in its current state, it applies to all encrypted data. This presents a huge challenge since almost every electronic device utilizes encryption. The encryption in these devices is secure, so it is specifically built to not make data accessible to third parties. For these devices to conform to the document, their software and sometimes even hardware would have to be changed to allow third parties access. This includes, but is not limited to, the following. Protocols such as HTTPS or SSH used to securely communicate with servers would need to be replaced or changed to allow third-party access. Every encryption algorithm that does not support third-party access or multiple encryption keys would have to be phased out. All hardware supporting the AES-NI instruction set, also known as AES hardware acceleration, will have to be replaced. This includes all servers, desktops, and laptops produced since 2008, as well as the majority of smartphones produced since 2013. Every network device like switches, routers, firewalls, modems, etc. that either have an HTTPS web interface or support some other secure means of communication such as SSH will have to be updated to a new software version. Many of these devices are no longer maintained and would need to be scrapped. Every operating system would need to be updated, as they all internally utilize encryption. Machines which do not support more modern operating systems would need to be replaced. Every software application that is using secure means of communication would need to be patched. Every embedded device, including but not limited to industrial control systems for robots, power plants, water treatment plants, cars, traffic control systems, airplanes, air traffic control, etc., would need to be patched. Many of these devices are no longer maintained, and the machines containing them would need to be replaced. The entire mobile telephony system and all attached devices and infrastructure, such as parts of mobile phone towers, would need to be replaced or patched. This is not a complete list, as the amount of devices utilizing encryption in some way numbers in the billions. Many such devices are infrequently or not maintained, especially in the public sector and infrastructure. Another issue is that entire classes of devices, such as airplane or nuclear power plant control systems, require stringent certification and might not be replaceable, requiring to decommission the entire structure. It is of course impossible to say how long this would take and how much it would cost. However, since this proposal would require changes to basically every piece of infrastructure of the European Union, the cost and timeframe would be truly astronomical. The security issues when looking at a more general scope are also very troubling. Keep in mind that one of the main issues of having a master key is that if you fail to protect the master key, encryption would become entirely useless. It is easy to see that increasing the number of devices that can be decrypted with the master key also increases the possible damage that could be caused should such a key be disclosed to unauthorized third parties. Of course, the possibility of every politician being open to blackmail is very troubling, but by including every piece of infrastructure, a malicious party could conceivably gain access to many devices required for modern life. This could be used to shut down ground or air traffic control, as well as water and energy supply. Due to the sheer scale of implementing such a solution, it would also be extremely hard to change back to a more secure state. It bears repeating that protection of the master key is not simply a matter of technology, but also of people. Even if a technologically secure solution could be found, and perfect security does not exist, the human factor would always be open to attack. In face of these issues, the only conceivable explanation as to why such a resolution would be passed is ignorance on the part of the politicians passing it. It should be made clear again that the goal of the document is not to implement anything right away, but rather create an expert group to advise on the matter. Because of this, it is extremely important to educate stakeholders. If you are an EU citizen, consider writing your members of parliament about this issue. Unfortunately, many politicians are not yet informed about the issues concerning this proposal.